So the first question to ask is, what is ethical awareness? Well, ethical awareness is the eagerness and the ability to designate moral situations and dilemmas through critical analysis, evaluation, and change. Awareness of our own attitudes and values and the impact that they may have on others. So, what is ethical alertness? Ethical alertness is about creating an environment or a culture where people are alert to the possibility of ethical issues arising from our day-to-day interactions. I mean, for example, it's really not possible to live our lives without ethical considerations. They're in front of us all the time. For example, is it appropriate to exploit people on the other side of the world and import their produce at a cheap rate and pay them very little? For example, that's an ethical decision that is always in the background. And also within our organization, do we really treat people with dignity and fairness? That's a key question in terms of the cultures that we create. If we put these two things together, what is ethical awareness and what is ethical alertness, there's a kind of continuum with alertness at one end and awareness at the other. So ethical awareness is the alertness needed to know when you rely on one and when to rely on the other. Accessing the stages on this kind of continuum between the two is a key ability in making mature ethical decisions. And often it's about making ethical decisions in the moment, in the here and now, where human relationships are at the heart of ethics, how we relate to others, and that may be within our immediate locality, or it may be broader, as the example that I offered. So there are four ethical determinants: autonomy, non-malfeasance, beneficence, and justice. And let's explore those. Autonomy is about informed consent, a very important concept. And I'm sure if you've been involved in research, you will know that's an important aspect of the ethics of research. Truth-telling is crucial in terms of developing autonomy. And being assured of confidentiality, as we've discussed many times in terms of ground rules, but also in work situations in general. Non-malfeasance is basically do no harm. This is my cat Fergus. I mean, you could do no harm to him. Look at him, he's beautiful. And beneficence, which and this is my daughter's cat sitting on her shoulder, enacting a bit of beneficence, acting for the benefit of others, defending other people's rights, and the prevention of harm. And then there's justice. And justice, as the scales suggest, is about fairness. It's about equity. It's about balance, balancing one thing against another in order to make a fair decision. For example, I can remember when I was working in a business school, and we had very large classes, over 100 students in each class. And when it came, I was the director of the program. And when it came to the assessment, one of my colleagues marked half of them and the other colleague marked the other. And the colleague who had marked theirs first had let the students know that they'd marked them. And so the students came to me and said, can we have our marks? And I said, you can't have your marks until the other colleague has marked their half. And the students were really up in arms, but I held the line because it seemed to me that fairness and equity was that they all received their marks at the same time. Whether you agree with that or not is a debatable subject. So let's think practically about making ethical decisions, and let's kind of think about that in relation to a situation. So first, if there's an ethical situation, stop, think, identify the nature of the situation or the problem. Describe it in some detail. Address the question of whose ethical issue is it? What is the ethical goal that you're trying to achieve? Next, what support is available or needed in this situation? Reflect on the relational processes played out in the situation. Consider the values and principles relevant to the situation, and consider possible actions to achieve the ethical goal. And then 9 is implement it. But evaluate the outcome. And the final thing to do is consider the personal impact of the decision on others. So if we take the question of students' assessed work and half being assessed and half not being assessed, the personal impact on me was considerable because I got in a lot of bother from the students. But I think it was worth it because it was the fair decision in my view. On the other hand, the impact on the students is actually minimal. 50% are going to be unhappy, 50% are going to be happy. So, it's not surprising that the 50% who hadn't reached their marks thought I'd got their marks, thought I'd made a wonderful decision. On the other hand, those that hadn't thought I'd made the wrong one. So there you go. Sometimes we have to stand up and be counted.